Now, as gunshots echo across the wind-swept, snow-covered reaches of the wild Northwest, Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the breakfast cereal shot from guns, present the challenge of the Yukon. It's Yukon King, swiftest and strongest lead dog of the Northwest, blazing the trail for Sergeant Preston of the Northwest Mounted Police in his relentless pursuit of lawbreakers.
On King, on, you huskies!
Gold discovered in the Yukon. A stampede to the Klondike in the wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush. With Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog, Yukon King, as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. Listen, fellas and girls.
Here it is.
The surprise you've been waiting for.
It'll make your eyes pop.
Yes, delicious Quaker Puffed Wheat and Quaker Puffed Rice, the ready-to-serve breakfast cereal shot from guns, are offering you cut-out models to build Sergeant Preston's exciting Yukon Trail in your own home.
Stand by for details a little later in this program.
Bat Nelson was one of the most vicious and brutal outlaws who ever terrorized the Yukon. In less than 6 months after the start of the Klondike Gold Rush, he had built up an organization of criminals which operated from one end of the territory to the other. He was a big man with a scarred visage, physically powerful, and ruthless in dealing out death with his twin 6 guns. The power in his huge fists had won him a reputation as being unbeatable in a hand-to-hand brawl, and he was as famous for his cunning as for his lightning draw. Even on the day Sergeant Preston captured him and brought him to the jail at Whitehorse, he lost none of his self-confident swagger.
You muddies make me laugh, thinking you're going to hold me in this little two-bit jail. Me, Bat Nelson? Well, my gang will bust me out of this lockup inside of 48 hours.
I'll have to work faster than that. You're leaving for Dawson tomorrow morning to stand trial for murder.
Dawson, Whitehorse, what's the difference? In case you don't know it, I've got men working for me all over the territory.
You'll stand trial in spite of your gang. And when it's over, you'll do your swaggering at the end of the hemp rope.
Why, you... Preston, I'm going to get you up. It's the last thing I ever do.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the meantime, you can sit and think about it in the jail cell.
Get moving, Nelson.
What cell are you putting him in, Alex?
In 3, Sergeant. 1 and 2 are occupied.
Oh? Who's the prisoner in cell 2?
Jug Sparks. He got in a brawl at the cafe last night. I'll turn him loose as soon as he's through sleeping it off. All right, Nelson, this is the one we reserved for you. In you go.
It's your hat.
With a snarl of disgust, Bat Nelson stepped forward into the small, bare cell. Then Constable Ross slammed the cell doors shut and turned the key.
I guess you'll be safe enough in there.
Don't be too sure of that, Redcoat. And as for you, Preston, just remember what I said. You won't be keeping me prisoner very long. And when I do get loose, you better watch out. Your life won't be worth a plug nickel.
After leaving the jail, Sergeant Preston went to the cabin of Constable Bill Kirk. He was greeted at the door of the cabin by Bill's pretty young wife, Lucy.
Why, hello there, Sergeant Preston. Come on in.
Thanks, Lucy. One boy.
Why, King, old fellow, how are you? Oh, here, let me take your parka, Sergeant.
Why, no thanks, Lucy. I just stopped by to tell Bill something. Is he around?
Well, he went over to the general store, but he should be back any minute now. Won't you sit down and wait?
All right, thanks.
This is a good time to thank you for the way you've helped Bill.
Oh, there's no need for that.
Oh, yes, there is. When Bill first came out to the Yukon, he was pretty much of a tenderfoot. He'd never been outside of Toronto before he joined the force. It was pretty hard for him at first. He didn't think he'd make the grade. But you were, well, sort of like a big brother to him. You encouraged him and taught him a lot. And, well, now I think he's going to make good.
I'm sure he is, Lucy. He's got the makings of a first-rate police officer.
Oh, I hope so, for his sake. Believe me, he certainly wants to make good. Why, he's just itching for a chance to prove himself.
Maybe he'll get that chance sooner than he thinks.
What do you mean? Oh, wait a minute. Here's Bill now.
Well, hello there, Sergeant.
Hello, Bill.
Hi, honey. Here are the supplies you wanted from the general store.
We'll set them on the table, dear.
All right. King. By golly, I almost overlooked you. Well, Sergeant, whole town's talking about the way you captured Bat Nelson. People are certainly going to breathe a lot easier now that he's safely locked up.
Unfortunately, the key members of his gang are still at large.
Sergeant, just before Bill came in, you were saying that he might soon get a chance to prove himself. What did you mean?
I mean that some of Bat Nelson's gang may try to stage a jailbreak tonight.
What?
Jailbreak?
Bat seems to be counting on it, so we'd better not take any chances.
You got a job for me, Sergeant?
I want you to report to the jail immediately, Bill, and stand guard there with Constable Ross till I get back. You can take King with you.
All right, Sergeant. Does that mean that you're leaving town?
Yes. There's a report that some of Nelson's gang are holed up in the hills east of here. I'm afraid it's a false alarm, but I'll have to investigate.
When do you think you'll be back?
Sometime tonight, probably, unless I run into trouble. In the meantime, Bill, I'll be counting on you and Alex Ross to keep things under control.
Don't worry, Sergeant. I promise you Bat Nelson won't break jail, with or without the help of his gang.
Meanwhile, back at the jail, Bat Nelson was listening carefully for any sounds from the next cell. He had already discovered a chink in the log partition that would serve for speaking back and forth. Finally, he heard the prisoner in the next cell wake up and break into a fit of coughing. Bat rapped gently on the log partition. The prisoner in the next cell replied.
Yeah, what do you want?
Bat put his lips close to the chink in the partition.
Shh. Get over here close to the partition so I can talk to you.
Huh? What'd you say?
Keep your voice down. I said get over here close to the partition so I can talk to you.
All right, I'm listening.
Your name's Jug Sparks, ain't it?
That's right. Who are you?
Bat Nelson. You ever hear me?
Holy smoke, I sure have.
How would you like to make yourself $1,000?
What do I have to do?
The guard said they were going to let you out of here as soon as you finish sleeping it off.
I guess so. They usually do.
When they turn you loose, I want you to take a message to Joe Sitka. Know who he is?
Yeah, that half-breed that runs a trading post outside of town.
That's right. Tell him Sergeant Preston captured me this morning and they got me here in jail. Tell him I want out. And I'm counting on him to do something. And tell him he'd better do it fast because they're taking me away from here tomorrow morning, you savvy?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. You deliver that message and then do whatever Sitka tells you to. Tell him I said to pay you $500 right away. You'll get the other $500 as soon as I bust out of here.
A short time later, Jug Sparks was released from jail. He went to his cabin and hitched up his dog team, and then mushed out to Joe Sitka's trading post, which was located about 10 miles from town. He gave the half-breed trader the message from Bat Nelson, and Sitka promptly paid him the first $500 which Nelson had promised him.
Very well, there's your money.
Thanks. What do I do now?
Hey, tell me, is Constable Ross the only one on guard at the jail?
No, another mountie came on duty just before they turned me loose. I heard him tell Ross that Sergeant Preston is leaving town. He wanted them both to stand guard, just in case Bat Nelson's gang tried to stage a jailbreak. Preston's lead dog's going to stay there with him, too.
What?
You know, that big Malamute named King?
Oui, I know him well, that dog. This is not going to be so easy as I thought.
What do you mean?
With just one mountie on guard, it would be easy to overpower him and free Bat Nelson. But with two of them, and that dog of Preston to help them, I'm afraid that is a different story.
You're right about that. Unless you got plenty of men to help you.
I have only one man beside you, a fellow named Kelso.
Kelso, huh? I didn't know he was one of Nelson's gang.
Hey, this other mountie that came on guard, who is he?
Oh, his name's Kirk, Constable Kirk.
Just as I thought. And he has a wife, no?
Yeah, that's right. A mighty good looker, too.
I wonder which one is more important to Constable Kirk. His wife or Bat Nelson, What do you think, eh?
I don't savvy. What are you driving at?
Suppose we go to Kirk cabin tonight and take his wife prisoner. Then we send him a message saying, either you let Bat Nelson go free by midnight, or else we kill your wife. What do you suppose he'd do, eh?
Oh. Thy thunder, Sitka, that's a mighty smart idea.
That night, 3 men halted their dog teams near Constable Kirk's cabin. One was Jug Sparks. Another was the half-breed trader Joe Sitka. And the third was a member of Bat Nelson's gang named Kelso. Leaving their sleds, the three men gathered together in the darkness. Sitka was giving the orders.
Now, we push back the hood of our parka and tie the handkerchief around our face. Like so. Let's go. Right. Kelso, you will do the talking. My voice is a little too easy to recognize, no?
Yeah, that's right, Sitka. Just leave it to me.
Better get your gun out now, so you'll have her cover as soon as she opens the door.
Right.
Bien. We are ready.
A moment later, Lucy Kirk opened the door. At the sight of the three masked figures, she gave a terrified gasp.
Who are you?
Never mind who we are.
What, you...
Don't try slamming that door in our faces or this gun might go off. Now back up. We're coming inside.
What is it you want?
You're going to stay with us a little while till we've had a chance to get in touch with your husband. As soon as we hear from him, you can go home. When you go get her parka?
I'll get it. It's hanging up right over here.
Lucy put on her parka, and then Kelso said,
All right, now douse the lamp and let's get out of here.
We'll continue our adventure in just a moment. Attention, fellas and girls. Listen carefully.
Yes, here's how you can get the thrilling new cutout models to build Sergeant Preston's famous Yukon Trail.
59 models offered at no extra cost, without delay, by swell-tasting Quaker puffed rice and Quaker puffed wheat. The king-size kernels shot from guns.
Yes, there's no waiting. Starting immediately with these models, you can follow an exciting new series of adventures.
The hair-raising adventures of Sergeant Preston and King as they travel down the famous Yukon Trail in pursuit of Bat Nelson, the most dangerous and cunning outlaw ever seen in these parts.
For instance, you get a model of the very same White Horse log jail that Bat Nelson is locked up in right now.
And say, these 59 Yukon Trail models are different.
You've never seen models like these.
There's not only Yukon buildings and animals, there's scenery. Yes, mountains, roaring creeks, waterfalls.
There are dog sleds and dog teams to hitch up and move around.
There are buildings you can reach into and change the interiors.
What's more, these models are bigger, far easier to put together.
And listen, these thrilling, different Yukon Trail models don't cost a single extra penny.
Every single model comes on special new packages of Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice, the famous breakfast cereals shot from guns to make them bigger and better tasting, and full of tender crispness and delicious nut-like flavor.
And as soon as you get the big red and blue packages of Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice, yes, today or tomorrow, you can start to build your Yukon Trail.
Every package is clearly numbered on the front.
There are 8 packages in all.
And the White Horse Jail, the dog sled, and dog team in today's story are on package number 1.
So hurry and get your number 1 package of swell-tasting, nourishing Quaker puffed wheat or Quaker puffed rice immediately.
Remember, there's nothing to send in, no money, box tops, or coupons.
Your grocer now has these Yukon Trail cutout models that come only on Quaker puffed wheat and Quaker puffed rice.
So hurry, start building your Yukon Trail right now.
Now to continue. Constable Ross and Constable Kirk were on guard at the jail in Whitehorse. King lay on the floor near the pot-bellied stove. Suddenly, they heard a knock on the door.
I'll see who it is.
As Bill Kirk opened the door, he saw an Indian standing outside in the darkness.
Well, what is it?
The Indian handed him a folded piece of paper and then turned to go. Bill grabbed him by the arm.
Hey, wait a minute, you.
What is it, Bill?
It's a message from Lucy, I guess. Well, let's see what it says. Alex,
What's wrong?
Nelson's gang's got hold of Lucy.
Here, let me see. Dear Bill, Bat Nelson's gang is holding me prisoner. They're making you write this. They say they will kill me if you don't release Nelson by midnight. Lucy, holy smoke. Are you sure it's her writing?
There's no doubt about it. Listen, Indian, where'd this message come from?
Me no savvy.
Don't give me that.
There's no use, Bill. He doesn't understand English.
How do you know?
I saw him over at the trading company yesterday. He and the factor were trying to bargain with each other in sign language.
No wonder they sent the message by him. They knew we couldn't get any information out of him.
We'd better hold him just the same. We can keep him in cell, too.
All right, Indian, come on inside.
Alex Ross locked the Indian in the cell and then returned to discuss the situation with Bill.
Alex, for heaven's sake, what am I going to do?
I don't know. We'll simply have to wait and hope for the best till Sergeant Preston gets back.
That's easy for you to say. It's not your wife that's in danger.
Listen, as soon as the sergeant gets back...
That may be too late by the time he gets back. It's 10:30 right now. The deadline's at midnight.
I don't know what to advise, Bill.
Well, I do. I'm going to take King to my cabin and put him on Lucy's scent. Come on, King.
Unknown to Constable Kirk, the three crooks who had captured his wife were hidden in a thick clump of underbrush a short distance from the jail, watching developments. They had taken Lucy to a deserted shack about 2 miles from Whitehorse and left her there bound and gagged. Then they had returned to town and given the message to the Indian. As Bill finished hitching up his team and drove away from the jail, Kelso spoke softly.
That takes care of him and the dog. Now what do we do?
First, we wait here 2-3 minutes. Then we tie handkerchief over our face again. Go up to the door of the jail. Kelso, you talk like Indian. Say you have message for him.
Sitka explained his plan carefully. A short time later, inside the jail, Constable Ross heard someone knocking. Getting up from his chair, he walked over to the door.
Who is it?
Me, Indian. Got message for you.
The constable hesitated a moment, and then he removed his gun from its holster and unbarred the door. Cautiously, he started to open up. At that moment, the crooks flung themselves hard against the door, forcing it inward and knocking the constable off his feet.
Drop that gun, Monty.
The constable tried to recover, but Kelso fired first. As Sitka and Jug rushed forward through the open door, they saw Constable Ross on the floor, clutching his shoulder. Sitka raised his gun and smashed the butt down on the constable's head.
Let's keep him quiet for a while. Now we must find his keys.
They're over there on the desk.
You are right. Yeah.
What's going on out there? Hurry up, let me out of here.
Oui, mon ami, I come quick. You two keep watch at the door while I let Bat out of his cell.
Sitka rushed down the passageway to Bat Nelson's cell. A moment later, he had the cell door unlocked.
Yeah, it's about time he was showing up.
What about the Indian and the prisoner in cell 1?
Yeah, never mind them. Let's get out of here pronto before someone comes around to check on that shot. Come on.
A short time later, Sergeant Preston arrived back at the jail. His search for other members of Nelson's gang had proved fruitless.
Hello there. Hello, hello.
The sergeant knocked on the door and was surprised to hear a voice shout from inside the jail.
Come on in. The door's unbarred.
He pushed the door open and went in. Then he saw Constable Ross lying wounded and unconscious on the floor.
Alex!
As he bent down to examine the constable's wound, the prisoner in cell 1 shouted out,
Hey, who's out there?
Sergeant Preston, what's happened here?
That was Bad Nelson's gang. They pulled a jailbreak.
Deftly, Sergeant Preston attended to the constable's wound. In a few minutes, the constable began to regain consciousness.
Sergeant,
Take it easy, Alex. You stopped a bullet.
I suppose Bat Nelson got away.
I'm afraid so. Tell me what happened.
As much as I remember. In the first place...
Briefly, Constable Ross recounted the events leading up to the jailbreak.
Bill had a mighty tough decision to make. Let's hope they haven't harmed Lucy.
You can't blame him for going after her.
Oh, of course you can't. In his place, I'd have done the same thing. It's going to sound bad in a written report.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Bill hadn't left his post of duty, the jailbreak wouldn't have occurred. The dangerous killer wouldn't be at large.
Before planning his next move, the sergeant questioned the prisoner in cell 1.
You got a good look at any of the gang?
The only one I saw was the guy who came back here and let Bad Nelson out of his cell. He had a handkerchief over his face. I guess he was giving the orders.
You recognize his voice?
No, but I can tell you one thing. He had a French accent.
Huh? Well, that's not much to go on.
After talking to the prisoner, Sergeant Preston discussed the situation with Constable Ross.
Looks like our only real lead is that Indian who brought the message from Lucy Kirk.
He won't be able to get any information out of him. He's a Cree Indian.
And we'll have to find someone who speaks Cree and get him to translate for us.
That's easier said than done, Sergeant. I don't know anyone around here who speaks Cree. No white man, anyway.
Stop to think of it, Alex. If we could find someone who speaks Cree, it'd make a pretty good suspect. At any rate, he'd be worth checking on.
What do you mean?
Well, I have a hunch that the person who sent the message could talk to the Indian in his own language.
Oh,
Otherwise, he'd have had a hard time explaining what he wanted him to do.
I never thought of that. But I still don't know of anyone around here. Wait a minute. What about that half-breed trader, Joe Sitka?
You're right. He does speak Cree, and what's more, he's a French-Indian half-breed.
What's that got to do with it, Sergeant?
The man who let Bat Nelson out of his cell spoke with a French accent.
Holy smoke, I'll bet he's our man.
Could be. I'll go out to the trading post right now and check on him.
Sergeant, let me go with you. If Nelson and his pals are out there, you can't fight the whole gang single-handed.
Someone's got to stay here at the jail, Alex. Besides, you're in no condition to travel. If and when Kirk and King come back, send them after me. I might need them.
Bat Nelson and his partners had a considerable lead on the sergeant. But Sitka had wrenched his ankle on the trail and was riding one of the sleds, which slowed them down. Moreover, Sergeant Preston was driving the fastest team in the territory. As a result, the crooks had not yet reached the trading post when they heard the barking of the sergeant's team in the distance. Bat Nelson called a halt.
Up your team!
Why for you stop?
Sounds like someone's following our trail.
Maybe it's just some traveler. Sourdough. Maybe an Indian.
Not at this time of night. Anyway, I'm not taking any chances.
What do you think we should do, eh?
We get down the slope a ways, in among the trees where it's nice and dark, and pick ourselves out a good hiding place. Then we get out our rifles and wait. When he comes over the ridge, we'll have him silhouetted against the snow without any protection. See what I mean?
But Sergeant Preston was taking no chances either.
Hey, Husky. Hey, now.
Leaving his team behind him, he proceeded up the ridge on foot. Before venturing over the top of the ridge, he veered off 20 yards or more to one side of the trail. Then he moved cautiously forward and started down the other side, picking his way among a series of large boulders. Meanwhile, the crooks were hiding among the trees and underbrush farther down the slope.
Hey, this is very funny. I don't hear his team coming any closer.
You're right. He must have gotten away.
Hey, look.
And look where?
Over there. The left of the trail. He's moving among those boulders.
Yeah, I see him now. But he won't be moving much longer.
Bat Nelson raised his rifle and took aim. The shot whistled close to the sergeant's head. He dropped to the ground and fired in the direction of the rifle flash. A moment later, bullets began chipping the rock all around him. The sergeant returned the fire, and the crooks soon realized they would have a hard time dislodging him from his position. Bat Nelson snapped out an angry order.
We'll never get him this way.
What are we going to do, boss?
I'll tell you what we'll do. Sitka and me will stay here and keep firing at him. We'll keep him pinned down.
Yeah? What about me and Jug?
You two circle around and sneak up behind him. While Sitka and me are firing at him from this direction, you two can pick him off from the rear.
Right.
For the next half hour, Sergeant Preston continued to exchange shots with the crooks hidden farther down the slope. But he noticed that the firing had slackened off. Meanwhile, Kelso and Jug had slowly maneuvered into a position above and behind the sergeant on the crest of the ridge. Jug spoke softly.
I thought that was a mighty smart idea sending us up here. He's a perfect target. You want to plug him, or should I?
You just leave it to me.
Kelso raised his rifle to his shoulder and took careful aim.
All right, Mountie, this is where you get yours.
At that moment, another rifle spoke. Kelso dropped his rifle and toppled headlong down the slope with a bullet through his heart. Jug whirled around the direction of the shot, only to see a snarling dog charging straight toward him. Before he could raise his gun to fire, the dog was on top of him.
No!
A moment later, Bill Kirk arrived on the scene.
Watch him, King. Don't let him make a move. For Pete's sake, call him off.
I'll call him off as soon as I got your gun. That's better. Now, I think I better snap some handcuffs on you.
Yeah.
Sergeant Preston shouted upward from his hiding place among the boulders.
That's right, Sergeant. They hit you?
Oh, I'm all right. What about Lucy?
She's safe, too. Found her all tied up in a deserted shack.
Good work, Bill. Keep down. A couple more of them hidden down there in the trees. Let's see if we can't run them off.
Right, Sergeant.
Under the double fire of the two Mounties, Bat Nelson and Joe Sitka soon realized that the tide had turned against them.
Please, wise idea. Help me over to the sled.
Help you nothing. From now on, it's every man for himself.
But I cannot walk with my bad ankle. You will have to handle the team. Let me ride the sled.
Ha! Don't make me laugh. Why should I slow myself up by carrying you? Besides, you're no use to me any longer.
Nelson, you dirty skunk, you cannot leave me like this. Before I let you go, I kill you.
Oh, yep. Oh! No one ever beats me to the draw, Sitka. You should have remembered that.
Relying on the trees and the darkness to cover his movements, Bat Nelson ran toward his sled. He jumped on the runners and cracked the whip over the team.
What?
The sergeant and the constable heard the dog team being driven away. Suspecting a trick, they waited for several minutes, and then ventured cautiously down the slope, with Jug Sparks accompanying them. It was King who found Sitka's body lying face down among the trees.
Sergeant, look.
Yes, Joe Sitka. He didn't live to stand trial for his crimes.
Yeah, too bad it couldn't have been Bat Nelson.
Capturing Nelson will be our next job, Bill. But as far as Sitka and Kelso are concerned, this